My dad bragged that his new wife was a better cook than Mom ever was. At Thanksgiving, I let her serve her famous pie, straight from the bakery box I found in her car. He didn't brag again. I'm Aaron, 28 years old, male. And I swear, every time my dad opens his mouth these days, it feels like he's chiseling away another piece of respect I had left for him. My parents divorced 6 years ago. Mom, Julie, 56, is quiet, steady. She's the type who never brags, never complains, just shows up. Growing up, she made every meal from scratch. Her lasagna wasn't Instagram pretty, but it was warm and heavy with cheese, and she'd hum while stirring sauce on the stove. To me and my sister, Emily, those meals meant safety. Dad used to love them too, until he didn't. He remarried 3 years ago to Sandra, 42. Sandra's the kind of woman who calls herself classy because she buys pre-cut fruit from Whole Foods. From the start, she wanted us to see her as an upgrade. Designer bags on the counter, loud laugh at every family dinner, little digs at Mom slipped in like poison. Some women just don't know how to take care of themselves, she once said while sipping wine, staring straight at my mom's simple cardigan. And Dad? He fed into it. He started bragging about her cooking, of all things. Sandra's meals put your moms to shame, he'd tell Emily and me. He even said it to Mom once during a drop-off for Thanksgiving 2 years ago. I'll never forget the way she just pressed her lips together, nodded, and walked away like she hadn't been gutted in front of her own kids. But here's the kicker. Sandra doesn't cook. At all. Her signature dishes always looked suspiciously perfect, like straight from a magazine. I knew it wasn't her. I'd seen the bakery boxes in the trash. I'd seen the meal prep containers with other people's handwriting on the labels. But Dad bought the act like it was gospel. So when he announced this year that Sandra would be bringing her famous pecan pie for Thanksgiving, and then launched into another monologue about how Mom never measured up in the kitchen, something in me snapped. I didn't plan revenge that night. It just grew, quiet and patient, while I thought about every time he'd humiliated Mom in front of us. The day of Thanksgiving, while helping Sandra carry in her groceries, I noticed a white and gold box tucked under a blanket on the passenger seat of her SUV. Local bakery's logo right on the lid. I didn't say a word. I just slid the blanket aside, pulled it out, and carried it inside with the rest of the bags. Sandra froze when she saw me walking in with it. Her smile flickered, but she plastered it back on. Dad, of course, didn't notice. He was too busy bragging to my uncle about Sandra's secret recipe. I put the box right in the middle of the dining table, lifted the lid. Here's Sandra's famous pie, I said. And the whole room went still. Everyone's faces at the table told a story. Emily, my sister, glanced at me like I'd just dropped a grenade. My Uncle Mark leaned forward, squinting at the logo on the box. Even my little cousin whispered, "That's from Brown's Bakery." Sandra's hand twitched like she wanted to snatch the box away, but it was too late. The lid was open, the logo staring everyone in the face. Perfect, glossy pecan pie with a little chocolate drizzle on top, exactly like the ones lined up in the display case downtown. "Wait," Mark said, breaking the silence. "Didn't you brag about making this from scratch last year? You gave us some speech about slow roasting the pecans yourself." Sandra's laugh came out high and thin. "Oh, Mark, you must have misunderstood. I do bake sometimes, but—" "Sometimes," Emily cut in, sharper than I'd ever heard her. "You've been taking credit for bakery pies for years, Sandra." My dad's fork clattered against his plate. "Emily," he warned, like she was a kid mouthing off, "watch your tone." That was the part that burned. The way he rushed to protect Sandra. Never Mom, never us. I caught Mom's eyes across the table. She looked down, hands folded in her lap, not saying a word. That silence was louder than anything. I leaned back, keeping my voice calm. No one misunderstood. Sandra's been bringing boxed food and pretending she made it. And Dad, you've been trashing Mom's cooking while bragging about it. Dad's face went red. First the ears, then creeping down his neck like a thermometer filling with anger. "Don't disrespect your stepmother like that," he barked, his voice booming enough to rattle the glasses. Sandra, to her credit, tried to play victim. She pressed her hand to her chest, eyes glassy, and whispered, I don't know why you'd try to humiliate me, Aaron. I've only ever tried to be part of this family. But she was cracking. Her hands were trembling so bad she knocked over her wine glass, red spilling across the white tablecloth like blood. She jumped up, shrieking at me. You think your precious mother was some saint in the kitchen? She made slop. I had to step in so your father could finally enjoy life. And just like that, the air snapped. Emily stood up, chair screeching against the tile. Don't you dare talk about Mom like that, she said, her voice shaking but strong. Dad slammed his fist on the table so hard the silverware jumped. Enough. You two are out of line. Sandra is a better wife than your mother ever was, and you will respect her. That was the moment I realized something cold and ugly. He didn't just believe Sandra was better. He wanted her to be. Because admitting otherwise meant admitting he'd destroyed our family for nothing. And I swear, as I sat there staring at him, I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Don't forget to subscribe. The aftermath of that dinner hit like a storm. We didn't even make it to dessert. Sandra disappeared into the bathroom, wailing loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear, while Dad stomped around like a caged bull. Mom quietly gathered her things, muttering that she didn't want to make a scene, but her eyes told me everything. Tired, bruised, but also relieved someone finally said it. Emily drove her home, and I stayed because I don't even know. Stubbornness? Rage? Maybe I just wanted to see how far Dad and Sandra would take it. Answer: very far. The next morning, my phone blew up. Voicemails from Dad, one after another. His voice went from stern to full-on screaming, "You embarrassed my wife. You ruined Thanksgiving for this family. You're just bitter because your mother never measured up." By voicemail number 6, he was calling me ungrateful, a failure, saying Sandra was twice the parent Mom ever was. I nearly threw my phone across the room. Then came Sandra. She texted me at 2 a.m., a long, rambling wall of messages about how I sabotaged her in front of the family. She even accused me of snooping in her car like a creep when I found the bakery box. The kicker? She said if I didn't apologize, she would set the record straight with everyone, which, knowing her, meant spinning some twisted story about how I was jealous of her. But what broke me wasn't her threats. It was when Emily called, crying. Apparently, Sandra had called her too. Told her she was a disrespectful brat who needed to grow up and stop clinging to Mommy. My sister's voice cracked as she said, "Why is Dad letting her do this? Why doesn't he stop her?" And I didn't have an answer. Because Dad wasn't just letting her. He was feeding it. Later that week, I swung by Dad's house to pick up some tools I'd left in the garage months ago. Big mistake. Sandra must have seen me pulling into the driveway because she came barreling out the front door, robe flapping open, mascara smeared like war paint. "You think you're clever," she screamed, marching straight up to my car. "You think you ruined me? You ruined your father's happiness." She slapped the hood of my car so hard it left a faint handprint in the dust. "You'll regret this, Aaron. I'll make sure everyone knows what a pathetic little boy you are." Dad came out then, but not to calm her down. No, he stood behind her, arms crossed, and said, "If you can't respect Sandra, don't bother coming around here again." That hit me like a punch. My own father, siding with a woman he's known for a handful of years over his own kids, over Mom, over me. I drove off, hands shaking on the wheel, but something inside me went quiet. Cold. Because if Dad wanted to pick sides, then fine. I was done playing nice. And that was the moment I started planning. Not just petty digs, not yelling matches. Real payback. The kind of revenge that doesn't just sting. It sticks. After that scene in the driveway, something in me snapped into focus. Sandra wanted a war? Fine. But I wasn't going to fight her by screaming on the lawn or trading insults. She thrived on chaos. I'd hit her where it hurt most. Her image. Sandra built her whole identity around appearances. Perfect wife, perfect stepmom, perfect hostess. She bragged about homemade dinners while picking up takeout in bulk. She posted family candids on Facebook that were staged down to the wine glasses. She lied so often I don't think she even knew what truth was anymore. So I started watching. Quietly, I noticed things. Grocery bags full of pre-made meals she'd replate. Instagram captions copied word for word from recipe blogs. The way she told my dad's friends about her secret garden when I knew she couldn't keep a succulent alive. It was all smoke and mirrors. Emily was furious but cautious. "Don't make this worse, Aaron," she begged. "Dad's already blinded by her. He'll just say you're jealous." But I wasn't rushing. I wanted to build something undeniable. Something Dad couldn't wave away with one of his respect your stepmother speeches. Then the opportunity landed in my lap. Sandra was organizing a neighborhood couples dinner. She boasted about it for weeks. "My famous lasagna," she told everyone. "Wait until you taste it. People beg me for this recipe." But Emily called me one afternoon, barely containing laughter. "You'll never guess what I saw at Costco. Sandra, cart piled high with frozen lasagnas, the same brand we used to eat in college when we were broke." That's when the idea crystallized. Thanksgiving had been a spark. This would be the fire. The night of the dinner, I accidentally stopped by to drop off a toolbox I'd borrowed from Dad. Walked straight into the kitchen where Sandra was cooking. Except she wasn't. She was tearing plastic off a Costco tray and dumping it into her ceramic casserole dish. Her face went sheet white when she saw me standing there. "Get out," she hissed. "Don't you dare ruin this for me." I smiled, pulled out my phone, and snapped a quick photo before she could cover the dish. "This isn't about ruining anything," I said, pocketing the phone. "It's about honesty. Remember that word?" She lunged at me, nails grazing my arm as she tried to snatch the phone. Dad stormed in, shouting, "What's going on?" And Sandra immediately crumpled into fake tears. "He's harassing me. He's obsessed with destroying me." I left before it got uglier. But I had what I needed now, proof. That picture was dynamite. All I had to do was wait for the right time to light the fuse. And believe me, I was patient. Don't forget to subscribe. Update 1. Alright, so, wow, I didn't expect this much attention on my post. Honestly, I thought maybe a handful of people would read it, nod, and move on. Instead, my inbox is packed. Half of you are cheering me on, the other half are telling me to just cut my dad off and go no contact. And then there's the handful of psychos who suggested I season the Costco lasagna with laxatives. Tempting, but I'm not trying to get arrested, y'all. Couple things I want to clear up because some comments hit me hard. 1. About Mom. A lot of you pointed out that my mom staying quiet at dinner was heartbreaking, like she'd been beaten down by years of this crap. You're right. She doesn't defend herself anymore, not because she agrees, but because she's exhausted. And that, more than anything, is why I can't just let this go. My dad and Sandra rewrote history to make her look like a joke, and I'm done watching them get away with it. 2. About Emily. She's in this with me, but she's nervous. She doesn't want to lose what little relationship she still has with Dad. When Sandra called her a brat clinging to Mommy, she cried for hours. She's tough, but she still wants her dad to love her. And seeing him throw that away for Sandra, it's wrecking her. 3. About the photo. Yes, I still have it. Crystal clear shot of Sandra dumping Costco lasagna into her fancy dish. I didn't post it online, yet, because I don't want to scorch earth unless I absolutely have to. But knowing it's sitting in my phone feels like holding a loaded weapon. Now here's the new development. Sandra isn't letting this drop. She's been calling relatives, spinning the story that I stormed into her kitchen and threatened her. Dad's eating it up, of course. My aunt texted me last night asking why I'm so angry at Sandra when she's done nothing but try to love us. I almost laughed myself sick. So yeah, I'm not just imagining this. Sandra's campaign to paint me as the villain is in full swing. But here's the part she doesn't get. I know how to bide my time. Her big couples dinner is next weekend. The one where she's promised her famous lasagna to half the neighborhood. And I will be there. Not officially invited, but I've got to weigh in. I'm not saying exactly what I'll do yet. Sandra might be narcissistic enough to stalk this thread for all I know. But let's just say the photo isn't the only ace up my sleeve anymore. Some of you told me revenge won't change anything. Maybe you're right. But it's not about changing them. It's about taking back the power they've stolen from my mom, from Emily, from me, and I'm ready. The night of Sandra's big couples dinner, I felt like I was gearing up for battle. Not a screaming match, something cleaner, sharper, a reveal they couldn't spin away. She'd invited half the neighborhood, all of Dad's work buddies, and a few of her Pilates friends who looked like they lived on wine spritzers and gossip. Every single one of them was expecting her famous lasagna, the lie she'd built her little throne on. I wasn't officially invited, of course, but Emily tipped me off that Dad had left the garage door code unchanged. That house used to be mine too, before Sandra redecorated it to look like an HGTV showroom. So while everyone was in the living room sipping Chardonnay, I slipped in through the garage with Emily trailing close behind, nerves written all over her face. "Are you sure about this?" she whispered. "Absolutely," I said. My hands were steady for once. Sandra was in the kitchen, plating salad like she was auditioning for MasterChef. The lasagna was in the oven, ceramic dish gleaming, the smell of baked cheese filling the air. My phone was ready in my pocket, picture locked and loaded. But I didn't even need to pull it out. Because when Sandra bent down to check the oven, I saw it. The Costco cardboard sleeve, crumpled but not hidden well enough, sticking out from the recycling bin under the counter. The brand name visible in bold red letters. I couldn't have planned it better if I tried. I walked in, leaned against the counter, and said loud enough for the people in the next room to hear, "Funny thing, Sandra, this smells exactly like the frozen lasagna I saw you buying last week. Costco, right?" Her head snapped around, face pale. "What are you doing here?" she hissed. But it was too late. Two of Dad's co-workers had followed me in, curious. One of them looked down at the recycling bin, spotted the sleeve, and let out a low whistle. Wait a second. The room went quiet. Eerily quiet. Even from the living room, I could feel the attention shifting. People started filtering in, wine glasses in hand, drawn by the tension. Emily just stood frozen beside me, wide-eyed. Sandra scrambled, literally dove for the bin to shove the sleeve deeper inside. "That's just packaging from something else. I made this myself." Her voice cracked halfway through the lie. That's when I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and held up the photo of her dumping frozen trays into the dish. Clear as daylight. Gasps. Whispers. Someone even laughed. Sandra's face twisted, rage and panic tangling together. "You little bastard!" she screamed, and before I could move, she grabbed the casserole dish out of the oven with bare hands, yelping as it burned her, and hurled it at the counter. Ceramic shattered, sauce splattering the cabinets like blood spatter in a crime scene. Half the guests shrieked. One of Dad's friends muttered, "Jesus Christ!" And Dad? He rushed to her side, of course. "Sandra, calm down." But she wasn't calming down. She was sobbing, yelling about how I was out to destroy her, how I was jealous, she replaced my mom, how everyone wanted to see her fail. She knocked over a wine bottle in the process, red spilling across the white rug like a second crime scene. The perfect image she'd worked so hard to build collapsed right there in her own living room. And Dad couldn't stop it, because this time, the evidence wasn't just me and Emily saying the truth, it was in everyone's faces, and I'll admit it. I stood there, heart hammering, and I smiled. Don't forget to subscribe. The fallout from that night was nuclear. By the time I left their house, Sandra was in full meltdown, screaming at neighbors, mascara running down her cheeks, clutching her burned hands like stigmata, while Dad tried to herd people out the door. Emily and I slipped out before the cops inevitably got called for a domestic disturbance. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My phone was a war zone, voicemails from Dad, half furious, half pleading, texts from relatives asking if I'd really humiliated Sandra in front of everyone. Even a Facebook message from one of Sandra's Pilates friends saying, "Honestly, thank you. We all knew she was fake." But Sandra didn't retreat. No, she went on the offensive. By noon, she'd posted a 500-word Facebook rant about toxic children who can't handle seeing their father happy. She painted me and Emily as jealous, unstable, even hinted we were mentally unwell. She used words like abuse and harassment, making it sound like I'd stormed into her house with a baseball bat instead of a cell phone photo. And Dad? He shared her post, shared it. added a comment. Couldn't have said it better myself. I didn't even know how to process that. My own father, publicly backing her lies over his own kids. Then things turned physical. That evening, I came home from work to find my truck keyed. Long, jagged scratches down both doors. A note under the windshield wiper, scrawled in messy handwriting. Stay out of Sandra's kitchen. Emily's apartment wasn't spared either. 2 days later, someone, wonder who, smeared food across her door. A greasy, disgusting mess of tomato sauce and noodles, like some deranged calling card. She called me crying, afraid Sandra would escalate further. We went to Dad, sat him down, laid it all out, the keyed truck, the food attack, the harassment. He didn't even flinch. Just said, if you'd shown some respect in the first place, none of this would be happening. That line right there. It was like watching the last thread between us snap. Sandra's instability was one thing. She was a fraud exposed, flailing. But Dad? He wasn't just enabling her. He was becoming her echo, her shadow. And suddenly the man who used to hum to Mom's lasagna while it baked was looking at me like I was the enemy. That night, Emily and I sat in my kitchen, both of us silent for a long time. Finally, she whispered, "What now?" I stared at the cracked photo frame on the counter, the last family picture we ever took before the divorce. Mom smiling softly, Dad's arm around her. And I felt that same cold clarity again. This isn't about Sandra anymore, I said. It's about Dad. He made his choice. Now it's our turn. And I knew right then, the next move wouldn't just be revenge. It would be cutting the cord he thought he could yank forever. Update 2. Update time, and buckle up because things got even messier than I thought they would. First off, thanks to everyone who's been blowing up my inbox. Some of you are savage. One guy suggested I send Sandra a Costco gift card with "From your secret supplier" written on it. Honestly, 10-10 idea. Others have been dropping serious advice about boundaries, restraining orders, and documenting everything. I hear you. So here's where we're at. Sandra's public meltdown. Yep, she went full nuclear on Facebook. Long rant about toxic children, claiming Emily and I are mentally unstable and trying to sabotage her marriage. She even threw in the word harassment, which made me laugh because the only thing I harassed was her recycling bin. Dad shared the post like it was scripture. Watching my own father co-sign her victim act? That hurt worse than anything Sandra ever said. The vandalism. My truck got keyed, twice. First time was bad enough. Both doors gouged like someone dragged a knife down the side. Second time, it was Sandra Hart's Rick carved into the hood. Subtle. Emily's place got hit too. Some genius smeared spaghetti across her door. She had to scrub tomato sauce off her welcome mat at midnight while crying on the phone with me. And no, Dad didn't care. His exact words, "If you'd respected Sandra, none of this would have happened." The family split. Half the relatives are buying Sandra's sob story. I'm getting texts about how I ruined a beautiful dinner and should apologize for the sake of family peace. The other half are low-key cheering me on. One cousin sent me a screenshot of Sandra trying to recruit people to uninvite Aaron and Emily from future gatherings. Spoiler. Nobody took her seriously. So yeah, chaos. But here's the thing. I'm not spiraling. For once, I feel steady because the truth is out. Sandra's mask is slipping, and the more she flails, the more obvious it gets. And now it's not just about exposing her. It's about making sure Dad can't keep using us as punching bags while he props up her fantasy life. I'm done begging him to see us. I'm done letting Sandra rewrite reality. A lot of you said, go scorched earth. Some said, cut them off and live your best life. I think I've found a middle ground. Let's just say I've got one last move planned, something Sandra and Dad won't be able to spin, ignore, or scream their way out of. No cops, no courts, no violence, just poetic justice. The kind that sticks. Stay tuned. I didn't rush the final move. If Sandra taught me anything, it's that chaos burns fast and fizzles out. But humiliation, the right kind, lingers. The opening came through Emily. She called one night, voice trembling with equal parts anger and excitement. Dad's company holiday party is this weekend. Sandra's in charge of the catering. Of course she was. Dad had apparently bragged to his entire office about her culinary talents. He told them she'd be providing her famous homemade spread, Emily whispered. You know what that means, right? She's about to feed an entire corporate party with takeout. It was perfect. I made a few quiet calls. Brown's Bakery, Costco, the local Italian deli, all places Sandra regularly shopped. I asked if they'd be willing to put little branded stickers on the containers this time, instead of plain packaging. They didn't care. It was free advertising. The night of the party, I didn't even have to show up. Emily slipped in as Dad's +1, blending in while Sandra paraded around like Martha Stewart on steroids. The food looked gorgeous, no doubt. The deli antipasto, the bakery cakes, trays of lasagna steaming hot. People were actually clapping for her. And then Emily did it. She casually lifted one of the catering lids just enough for the sticker to peek out. Brown's Bakery logo, bold and clear. She took a photo, sent it to me, then passed her phone discreetly to one of Dad's co-workers. The whispers spread like wildfire. People started checking the other trays, spotting more stickers. By the time Dad got up to toast, "My wife, the most talented cook I've ever known," the entire room was buzzing. And then, "God, I wish I'd seen it in person," Sandra snapped. Someone asked her directly, "So, which recipe did you use for the lasagna?" She froze, stammered, tried to cover it with a joke. But when another coworker held up a container with Costco's label on it, Sandra lost it. Threw her wine glass across the room, shrieking that people were conspiring against her, that Emily was sabotaging everything. And Dad? He didn't calm her down, didn't save her. He just stood there, face crimson, while his coworkers stared. The same man who'd bragged endlessly about his wife's cooking had to watch her be exposed in front of the people he needed to impress most. Emily told me later that the HR manager quietly escorted Sandra out while people whispered. Dad gave a limp excuse about her being overwhelmed, but no one bought it. The damage was done. And I didn't lift a finger. I let Sandra's own fraud unravel her in the one place she couldn't afford it, Dad's professional life. When Emily got home, she dropped into my kitchen chair, exhausted but grinning. "It's over," she said. "She'll never come back from this." And for the first time in years, I actually believed her. The fallout wasn't immediate. It unfolded slow, ugly, and public. After the holiday party disaster, Sandra went dark on social media for about a week. Then, the damage control began. She posted a shaky video about being bullied by stepchildren and how women are always torn down when they succeed. But the comments section betrayed her. Neighbors, coworkers, even some of her so-called friends chimed in with things like, "Girl, we saw the Costco sticker." Within a month, Dad's reputation at work was toast. He'd bragged so much about Sandra's homemade meals that when the truth came out, people didn't just laugh at her, they laughed at him. My aunt said one of his coworkers nicknamed him Chef Boyer Lie. He hated it, but he couldn't shake it. And Sandra? She didn't take it quietly. She doubled down on the theatrics. One night, Emily called me in a panic. Sandra had shown up at Mom's house. Drunk, screaming from the front lawn about how Mom turned her kids against her. Mom, bless her, just locked the doors and called the police. Sandra was gone by the time the cruiser showed up, but the sight of her mascara-streaked face lit by the porch light stuck in Emily's head for days. The real fracture, though, came from Dad. He started calling me late at night, voice slurred, muttering about how family should stick together, and I didn't know she'd go that far. It was the closest thing to an admission of guilt I'd ever heard from him. But every time he ended it with, "You need to apologize to Sandra." That was his line in the sand, and I never crossed it. Instead, I stopped picking up. Emily did too. She blocked both of them after Sandra left a voicemail calling her a useless brat. We didn't make a big announcement, no screaming final confrontation. We just cut the cord. Quietly, finally. The last time I saw Dad was at the grocery store months later. He looked older, shoulders slumped, a man carrying too much weight. Sandra wasn't with him. He caught my eye across the produce aisle, opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, then shut it again and walked away. I thought I'd feel guilty, but I didn't. I felt free. Mom, meanwhile, started smiling again. Real smiles, not the tired, tight-lipped ones she used to wear. She even let Emily teach her how to make a new pie recipe. Messy, imperfect, but ours. Watching Mom laugh in the kitchen, powdered sugar dusting her sweater, I realized something. Revenge hadn't just been about Sandra. It was about reclaiming the truth. Dad wanted us to believe Mom was lesser, Sandra was better, that we owed him our silence while he rewrote history. But the truth was loud now, and no matter how much he tried to ignore it, he couldn't brag about Sandra ever again. The bakery box had spoken for us, and that was enough.